Hey guys, my name is Brittany, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be reading some young adult sci-fi dystopian.
It's Brittany, bitch.
Both of these novels I have from NetGalley, and they are both the sequel in their respective series. So I read both of the first novels in both series last year for the Magical Readathon, and I was not disappointed. One of them was a 5-star, one of my favorite books of the year, and the other one was a fantastic concept that I'd really love to see fleshed out. So I'm really hoping that the second novel in the series gives me some answers to my lingering questions. One of those novels is The Last City, and this is, of course, the second in the series. The first one was called The Last She. And basically the whole concept of this series is women are really, really rare on Earth now because of some virus that eradicates women specifically. But yet we're following Era, who is somehow able to survive. We know that she's kind of involved in maybe the potential process of what created this virus or something. There's something going on with medical testing, maybe her father in a lab. Like, we don't really know a whole lot. There's so many questions to be answered by this series. And then the first book ended off on, like, to me, what should have been the beginning to the second book. It led off super weird, and I love the idea of this so much that I was just willing to continue, even though I only gave the first book 3 stars. Like, what a fantastic concept. I'm really curious to see how it bodes itself, but we're also following her love interest in this story a little bit too, so I wasn't a big fan of that, but I'm really curious to see what the true answers for my questions are. I really, really want to know. I want to know some more about this medical thing. I feel like that whole plot line was just dropped, and I really want it to pick back up again, and I think it will, because The Last City is basically, I think, one of the last cities where women kind of flourish, and there's more women there, and I think it's like an underground bunker, so I'm really excited to see how that's going to play out. And the first novel I'll be picking up is City of Vicious Night, and this is the sequel to City of Shattered Light. And this was the book I gave 5 stars to. I really enjoyed this. It was just a really fun time. It is like a sci-fi cyberpunk universe. And the first book was basically a heist novel, so it was like a sci-fi Six of Crows that was so well done, and I would highly recommend it. And this second one so far is really pulling on the themes from the first novel and fleshing stuff out, even though things were answered in the first novel, but things of course happened towards the end, and we're kind of getting to see those resolved now. And it's very interesting because in the first novel we do have a romance between our main characters Asa and Riven, and I didn't really feel it at first, but I feel like now in the second novel I'm kind of feeling the romance more, and there's more of a foundation for it. This series started out with Asa being this tech conglomerate's heiress daughter. She has lived rich her entire life. Her dad, think of her dad as Elon Musk. If there was an Elon Musk who had 2 daughters, this is him. And this dude is really, really bad, and he's fucked up a lot of shit. He's had a lot of really bad human experimenting projects, which we find out more, I think, about in the second book, because there was a project that Riven happened to be in, but now Riven is a smuggler. She's people's bodyguard. She does the dirty jobs in Requiem. And they meet in the first book because Asa basically has a bounty put on her, and Riven and her ragtag crew go to get that fucking bounty. And that's how this whole thing kind of starts. And then of course now they're on the same side, and they're kind of fighting back against Asa's father in the second novel. But so far there's already a lot of political machinations. It's really interesting, this political minefield that's going on. So I'm really hopeful for this one that's hopefully gonna be another 5-star. But I actually feel like the character is a little more fleshed out, I think, in this novel for me. I feel like I definitely feel the relationships a little bit more so far, but I'm only 10% in. I'm not really that far into the novel to give you guys a full analysis, but I think once I get at least 50% I can kind of give you guys a better idea. But so far, so good. I think I'm definitely the most excited for this novel just because the first one was so good, and I'm also expecting a 5-star out of this one, or at least a 4-star. A 4-star is fine. Anything above a 3-star is great, but I'm really hoping for another 5-star because I love the first one so much. And I just love there's so much world building in such a small amount of time, but nothing ever feels too drawn out or too over detailed. You get everything they're talking about. So I'm excited. When I get farther into City of Vicious Night, I will let you guys know, but until then, wish me luck. really wanted to film today, like an actual like sit down video. Actually, I want to film like 2 sit down videos, but I am not really feeling good, and I just had to go deposit like my emergency money. Do you guys have like that emergency money around your house? Like if your account's gonna go negative, you have to like go take it to the bank. Yeah, I've had that money for like 4 years and I haven't had to like put it in the bank, but I guess today was the day, because if not, I was not gonna be able to pay any of my upcoming bills until I get paid on Friday, and today is Monday. So it's been I'm feeling so dejected by that. I'm feeling betrayed. I'm feeling like a failure. I'm gonna be 30 this year, and it happened again. And on top of that, I think I have food poisoning for my lunch. Like, I just do not really feel good. And as soon as I ate half my chicken sandwich, all bets were off, dude. Like, my stomach started gurgling, and I thought I was gonna Ralph all over my keyboard when I was working. And then I realized it was probably the chicken sandwich I was eating. Yeah. So I went to my freezer and grabbed the Trader Joe's organic jasmine rice, which is literally a lifesaver. I have it at my house at all times just because it's so easy to make rice in 3 minutes. And in this case, it literally saved my life, and I ate like 3/4 of a bag for lunch. And now for dinner, I'm gonna have Tyler pick up some pho for us because I just don't really feel like eating like real food. I'm probably gonna go home, drink some more bone broth, and that's it. I just feel like this day did not turn out as I expected. This is not a book update at all. There's nothing going on here. I read like 5% more. It doesn't matter, but you know, some days are just not the day. And it's really upsetting because I didn't even have that many meetings today. I only had 1 meeting, and I literally got ready to like do filming and all that stuff, and it just didn't work out the way I planned. Today sucks a little bit of ass. Anyway, that was my update for you guys. I will talk to you guys hopefully when I am 50% of the way into City Vicious Night, which is hopefully gonna be in the next day or two. It just kind of depends on how fast I read. I'm not really obviously feeling up to it, so we'll see how reading goes. All right, so I want to give you guys an update on City of Vicious Night, which I'm about 50% of the way into, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I must say it's taking me quite a while to get into this book, but it's not because of the book by any means. I'm in the middle of moving, so I'm just really discombobulated. I'm not really reading a whole lot, and if I am reading, it's audiobooks during work hours, so I'm not really reading at all at night. I've been exhausted, we've been packing, like it's just not really like the time for reading, but so far I'm really enjoying this book. I'm trying to think of what I can tell you guys without spoiling the whole premise of the sequel, but there is a competition going on. We're also following somebody in a separate facility on a different planet, and that is a completely separate chapter strain, which is really interesting and fascinating to read. And of course, all of it ties back to the first book. And this competition is really cool because they get to kind of compete as a team. And it's for one of these spots as like a matriarch of the city, I believe, of Requiem. That's the best way I can think to describe it. I don't remember. It's also been like 3 days since I picked the book up, but I needed to tell you guys before I forgot my thoughts. But I think the thing I enjoy about this book, as well as the first one, is that this always feels very high stakes. Like you can actually die, like things actually happen. You know, in the first book, bad things happen, and there's already a lot of things happening to these characters that are not ideal. Like we're kind of going farther into Riven's issues. So Riven from the first book, you kind of know that she basically was part of like a medical thing when she was younger, and something is like frying her nervous system. It was part of like a separate testing facility associated with Asa's father. So we know something is up, and it has to do with, I think it's Project Winterdark. So we're trying to find out what's happening there, and we're kind of piecing together what's going on so that we can basically essentially save Riven, because otherwise she could basically just die. I'm also feeling the romance between Asa and Riven a lot more in this sequel. I feel like in the first book I didn't really feel it, but I think we probably weren't meant to feel it as much. It was kind of more of like an inkling, but this time I'm definitely feeling more of their tension and more of the issues they have between both of them, and it's kind of a fun time. I'm really enjoying it. I feel like I'm actually getting to know these characters more in this sequel, which I guess should definitely happen, but I feel like in the first book we didn't get always a whole lot of look into these characters, and now we're kind of getting more of the backstory. We're kind of piecing things together. And of course, we have a bunch of fun new plot lines along the way, and I'm not gonna lie, some of them are really dark. Like this book, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, can be like a little dark with some of the subject matter, but I think that's why I enjoy it. It's not like a super happy YA novel. Like there's definitely some bad things going on, like human testing, experimenting, that sort of thing, and people trying to take revenge for that. And they have to team up with some powerful people in order to accomplish this. So far, so good. I'll kind of give you guys my full review when I finish it, and I might have like a spoiler, but I think so far I've been trying to explain it in a really non-spoilery way, so that way you guys can definitely enjoy it, especially if you have read the first book. But if you haven't, what are you doing? Go read the first book. It's so good, and I just don't know why more people don't talk about this fucking book. Like, this whole series so far is just chef's kiss. I have no complaints. I can't think of anything I don't like these books so far, except for the fact that I'm reading them so slowly because I'm just not reading, and I'm mad at myself for that. But that's it. So hopefully within the next week, I can finally finish this book. Again, nothing about the book. It's totally me. I just haven't been reading at all, but I really like to finish this before we end up moving. So I have a week. It's gonna happen. Well, as you may notice, I am in a different location, and that is because I ended up moving in the middle of this fucking vlog. I really thought I was gonna finish this reading vlog before I moved. Did not happen. So here I'm in my new environment, in my new room. However, I don't really have a good place to film in this room. I just feel like until I get my bed situated the way I want, that I don't really want to film with my bed in the background. And there's not really a good wall in here where I can just sit and it's just be wall. Like, there's absolutely zero spot. The only spot that I could have done it in is where my dresser is right in front of me. It's the only like wall big enough for that, or where my desk is. So I don't really have the room for it, and I don't really know where to film. So in the interim, you might just get this. I mean, at least there's like a half dying plant. It's not that bad. But you can tell the walls behind me are now gray, which is technically a better color for me anyway, but I'm not a fan. I always seem to be attracted to colors that actually are like not good for my skin tone or whatever, but I prefer them. I just want to give you guys a quick update that I am still reading City of Vicious Night. I literally have gotten 2 chapters. I did not read it all when I was moving. I just wanted to kind of make this little clip to show you guys that, like, listen, I'm working on this, and also I have moved. So that way you're gonna notice that everything is different. You're not gonna be like, what the fuck happened? This is what happened. I moved. So I'm in a totally different space, totally different fucking state. And hopefully I have my moving vlog already posted on the channel. If not, wow, I'm really behind. I'm already really behind. It's already February, and I moved in January. So as you can tell, it's been a little hectic. I've only been back at work for like 2 days, so it's just been a time. Anywho, I will give you guys more of an update when I finally finish this freaking book, because there's nothing wrong with this book at all. I haven't been reading at all. I've literally read pretty much nothing. When I finish this book, I will pop in and let you know how it is, but I just want to let you guys know in the interim that I moved so you weren't surprised, and also that I am still working on this book. I literally have just not had time to read. I haven't been reading anything. I haven't played my Sims at all. I haven't edited. I haven't done anything. I've only watched a little bit of TV while we were doing some moving stuff and organizing. That's about it. So I haven't really got back to normal yet, but when I do, hopefully I'll finish this book, because I really like to, because I really am enjoying it, even though I've only read 2 more chapters, but it's a great book. I just have not had the fucking time. So I finally finished City of Vicious Night, and I'm so freaking glad that I finally finished this damn book. Nothing wrong with this book. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm actually gonna give it 4 stars. I just took way too freaking long to read this because I started this right before I moved, and I finished it after I moved. So the reading experience was really drug out, but I overall really, really enjoyed this novel. After the previous events of the first novel, Riven, Asa, and a gang, they were basically working for a crime syndicate, and they're also nursing their wounds. And the crew jumps on this opportunity to compete in these deadly trials to basically become one of the matriarchs of the city. So there's a couple different matriarchs that run different parts of the crime syndicate of the city, and that's my understanding. And they have to compete in these deadly trials where people can literally die in order to like compete for that spot. So that was a very big part of the plot of this book, and a lot of it was definitely lost on me. That's definitely why this wasn't a 5-star read. I had a really, really hard time connecting to these matriarch competitions / trials. I feel like they just really weren't explained in a way that worked for me. I didn't understand like the premise of a lot of like the trials. It didn't work for me. I had a hard time with that. But there is another plot line that I don't really want to spoil for you that involves kind of the human experimentation side of things and the E-tree and the things that you'll know from the first novel, but I don't want to spoil for you here in the second novel. We also have a side character that ends up joining the crew towards the middle and end of the novel. So I also don't want to spoil that for you guys as well. This one was definitely darker and more dangerous feeling. There was definitely more stakes on the line, even even though last time there was a lot of stakes on the line as well, now we're also dealing with this unknown hacker named Redline, who is kind of making their jobs impossible and literally threatening their lives. So there's a lot of different things going on here. We're still, of course, dealing with Asta's father and his whole corporation and the things that they've done, and Project Winter Dark. I mean, I don't want to spoil things for you, but like, there's a whole lot of different plots in this book. So since I didn't enjoy the matriarch competition plot line, it didn't really ruin it for me, just because there were so many other things for me to focus on and enjoy. If you like politics and twists and betrayals and unlikely alliances, I think you'll really enjoy this book. I think the series in general is really fun for that. You kind of like end up trusting people you don't think you're going to end up trusting, and it just kind of like worked for me in a way I wasn't anticipating. I just really enjoy these characters, and I feel like this time around the characters were done much better than in the first novel. The first novel, I think, had like the plot on point. It was like, and I'm more of a plot driven reader, so it worked better for me anyway, but this one was definitely more focused on the characters and their relationships. It's kind of the trope where everybody ends up together, but I'm not mad at it because I think they happen naturally. I just wish there was almost like more of like a romance between some of these characters. I wish I felt it more. We don't really get to see a whole lot of them like in relationships with each other. It's just more like this kind of like pining, but they don't really want to fall in love with each other because they know they could die at any moment and all these other things. Like, there's so many different stakes to this. I just feel like this author is definitely better at writing plots for me. I definitely enjoy more of like the plot driven stuff, but the characters I think were way more fleshed out this time around. I don't want to say anything else to spoil this book for you or have to put spoilers up here, so I would definitely, of course, read the freaking first novel, but this was a really excellent sequel. I mean, it's pretty rare for sequels to get a really high rating anyway because they tend to suffer from that middle book syndrome. I don't know if this is going to be a duology or I think there's a third book in the mix. I'm pretty sure there is a third one going on, and I hope so because there's definitely like some opportunities for that to happen, but I guess they could also decide not to continue with it if they don't want to, but I sure hope they do. I feel like there's a lot of things I'd really like to see played out a little bit more, maybe some more things wrapped up. Still have some villains on the loose that I'd really like them to take care of. So now that I finally finished that book, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on The Last City, which I'm also really excited for, even though I didn't rate the book very highly the first time. I just love this dystopian concept, and certain dystopian books I will just get so sucked in, even if they're not well executed. Like, I just feel like I don't really connect with the writing style and how this author does time jumps and stuff, but I really like the idea of this dystopian world where women are like more rare because that disease affects women. I mean, it also affects like animals and stuff too, but mostly women tend to be like very like rare survivors. So it's just a really interesting concept. And now The Last City is all about this city that Ara's father told her to find. So I'm hoping it goes back to some of the earlier stuff from the first book, but I'm not holding my breath on it because I think this book was originally written on Wattpad, and I'm not sure how much they've like changed from the original books, but I hope that the storylines make sense because last time they didn't. There's no nice way to say it, but like there's so many weird like plot lines that I'm like that didn't go anywhere. So I'm hoping they wrap some of those up in the second book because they were really cool plot lines like medical testing and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it gets tied back. So I'll probably hit you guys up when I hit around the 50% mark. We'll see how I'm feeling, and then I'll give you guys an update. I just want to show you guys my favorite places in all of Raleigh. It's La Horchateria. They are a coffee shop, but they also have a lot of like treats and stuff, and honestly they don't open till fucking 11 a.m. every single day, so it's more like a treat thing. So it's after work today and I decided to go get a treat, so I got myself a decaf coffee. This is the Tres Leche latte, and then I got myself the Lechera mini pancakes. So it's just sweetened condensed milk, powdered sugar, and strawberries all over these really delicious mini pancakes. They're like $8, but they're totally worth it. This was a PSA, that is all. So last night, I finally got to 50% of the way into The Last City, and I have to say that so far, I'm actually really enjoying this. I think I'm actually enjoying it a little bit more than the first book. This book isn't perfect by any means, but I feel like it's doing the plot so much more service. I feel like in the first book, it was like she had almost too many ideas to get on the page, and it wasn't like creating a concrete storyline that we could follow. There was almost too many points of contention, and I feel like in the second novel, it's also focusing on really what I really wanted from the first book. I wanted more information about the medical centers, the medical testing, something going on with the blood. It's just a really interesting take on stuff from the first book. We finally also get to see this last city here in the second novel, and Ara ends up meeting the person who's in charge of this city, and they are related to her is all I'm gonna say. So it's very interesting to see how that's kind of playing out. And then we're kind of getting more information about the plague flower, because the plague flower basically can kind of like stave off like this weird virus that everybody can die from, because it's not just women that can die from it or animals, right? It's everybody, but women are like proportionally more susceptible to dying from it, right? So that's why women are kind of more rare. And we're also getting to see like the inner workings of the city and see the corruption. I love that kind of shit, but I love that it's like medically advanced, but at the same time it's so back in time. Like everything has like horse-drawn carriages, and there's like the poverty side of it. It's very like Hunger Games-esque feeling, where there's like the really poverty-stricken sides of it, and then there's like the capital side of it. Not to that level of like excess and lavishness of the capital in the Hunger Games, right? But I love the juxtaposition. I think that's the same thing like in most different cities, but I like that was really included here. I don't want to spoil too much for you, because obviously this is the second novel in a series, but I feel like it's definitely building upon what happened in the first novel and really bringing it full circle. It's definitely doing all the things that I asked it to do. I'm still a little bit lost when it comes to some of the things from the first novel, but I hope that those things are eventually resolved. Right now, a lot of them are being resolved, or kind of like building upon the mystery. So it's building on it in a good way. There's like the markings on the doors that she's trying to figure out. Some people say it's like a whirlpool under the city. Some people say it represents the lost city's corruption. Like there's definitely a lot of things going on here, and I'm enjoying that. It started off a little slow with the character I really didn't care to read from that perspective, but now I'm also enjoying that person's journey, and I'm also enjoying R's journey, because I really want to like have her get down to like the brass tacks here. I want to find out the nitty-gritty shit that's going on in the city. And it just seems like she can't trust anybody, and I enjoy that. I'm sure hopefully the big reveal will come in the third novel as to like what's going on, and you know, the blood thing and all of the human testing. But so far there's some really cool stuff. We found this really cool algae that, I'm sorry, it's a moss that like decomposes people and is like bioluminescent, so that's interesting. And I don't know, I'm finding it interesting, I'm finding it entertaining, and I'm finding that I'm reading it and enjoying it. Let's just hope that I can keep it up when I finish this, but I'm hoping to finish this in the next couple of days here. But I mean, so far so good, and I actually like want to pick it up and read it, and when I'm reading it, I want to get to the next chapter. So far I think that's a good sign. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next couple of days. So I am finishing The Last City, and I actually enjoyed this one more than I thought I was going to. After reading the first in the series, I was very trepidatious about attempting the second novel because I was very worried that those unanswered questions I would have from the first novel would lead into the second novel, but a lot of those questions were actually answered, and I actually do have some new ones. So it actually progressed in a nice way, and was it perfect? No. But was it a lot better than the first one in my opinion? Yes. It did take me a couple of chapters to get into this, so I do want to clarify that, because we leave off on the first novel with something that doesn't really make any fucking sense, and then when we enter the second novel, it is never like alluded to. So basically at the end of the first novel, we see this character that is still alive, and they're in a bunker, and some man rescues them, and then in the beginning chapter of this book, that's never alluded to, they're like back in Boise. So I just felt that was a little weird. I really could have used a little more like bridge between the gaps a little bit. Same thing with some other characters' journeys. I just feel like a lot of things were skipped over to get to other things, and it's almost like I would have preferred you make the book a smidge longer in order to like kind of explain what happened in between. I think that's again some of the problems that I have with this author's writing is the time jumps really kind of confuse me. I'm like always left wondering, like, how did we get here? What happened with that? So that's kind of things I have with her writing in general. I don't think it's like maybe an oversight on her part anymore. I think that may just be kind of how she ends up writing, because I just find it confusing, and it was in the first novel and it was in the second novel. So at this point, I just feel like it's just her writing style. I actually really enjoyed Ara and Sam in this book. I feel like they were interesting perspectives. The perspective I didn't enjoy was Caden. I just feel like this dude had no basis being in the story. He didn't add anything for me. It was just really unfortunate because he has potential to be a good character, but I don't care enough about him as a character at all. And on top of that, his perspective gave us nothing other than him pining for Ara and wanting to be with her without this like crazy Lost City nonsense. It just didn't really work for me. I don't really care about him as a character, but also like his perspective was just kind of boring. He didn't really add a whole lot to the story. I feel like Ara's storyline was kind of discovering what was going on in the Lost City, meeting with this relative of hers and trying to figure out what's going on, and she did a good job of that. And then I feel like Sam was basically showing us what's happening back in Boise, and he ends up meeting M, who is another character who's very interesting, and kind of finding out her backstory, and it all kind of culminates in a good way. I just feel like he is not main character material. He really isn't. It just, something about him just doesn't work for me. It's not that he's like particularly a weak character. I just don't care about him or his storyline. I mean, the only things I really know about this dude in general is that he had kind of an abusive relationship with his father. He grew up on a farm kind of alone. He likes horses. He's in love with Ara. I just feel like that's not really enough of like a story for a person, but that's just me. The good news is that this novel did not suffer from middle book syndrome, which is a godsend, because I actually feel like the first one did. The first one was like, it wasn't even like info dumping. It just felt like the middle book of a novel, and that's the only way I can think to describe it, especially after reading this one. I just feel like this one actually has so much more plot and advancement. I almost feel like we could have skipped the entire first novel, which sounds absolutely terrible, but like a lot of people I saw in the reviews actually did read this, and they're like, oh, maybe you can get a little bit more from the first novel, but they totally understood everything. And I just feel like, was the first novel really necessary? Was it now? I feel like we could have added on part of the first novel into this second novel, and that was it. Like, you could have actually combined these two novels together, and it actually would have been a pretty good first novel. I just feel like the first novel kind of really wasn't necessary. So like, if you want to just go into the second book, do you. I actually think it's one of those sequels that you could totally skip the first novel, but I mean, of course, I guess you'd miss a little bit of stuff. Was it really that important? The medical testing thing, a little bit more explained in this one, which is what I loved. I love they followed the fucking storyline that I was really interested in, and I liked it. I don't want to ruin too much of this novel for you. I think I've already kind of said too much in some parts, but I hopefully did not spoil too much of this novel for you. I think you should go ahead and attempt it. I feel like this series could really end strong, and I'm hoping it does. I think there's only supposed to be 3 books in it, so the third one will hopefully be out sometime next year. If you are interested in this novel, it actually published in the US on February 14th, and for the other book I read, City of Vicious Night, that book actually publishes, unfortunately, May 23. So it is coming out much later in the year, but I guess only a couple more months to go. So in May, you can also pick up that book. But the good part is that you might be able to still request it on NetGalley because it is not out yet. So that's kind of the plus with that one. But anyway, if you have read these books or the first novels in the series, I'd like to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys all very soon. Have a lovely day.